Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 12th of February. And just thought I'd start with the 5 minute chart now because it's just, again, what we're seeing here is within a narrow range, relatively strong volatility intraday. Early morning rise, as soon as the bell opened, big sell off. So, again, you're just fighting calls and puts back and forth. And so this becomes just an option because where else are you going to go with this? I mean, as we've talked about, it's just too much uncertainty. Of course, we had a bunch of employment numbers come out, and a lot of it is about revisions, adjustments, and now everyone's fighting over what is accurate data and what can we do with what actually comes out. And this is something we've been talking about for years, but it's just not really reliable. And by the time you do all the adjustments, you're just trading a narrative, and that's it. So we can see from the European session, um, Asian started out a little bit positive, and then it's progressed. But we saw a similar thing the other day. So and you saw what happened with that. It was back and forth, early rise to a strong short move. Even though you had the MBI weight spike there, Magenta stayed up quite a bit until we got a little bit of a breakdown right before we broke price range in the 76%. And the interesting part about it, though, is that even with the MBI weight lead that took place, we weren't able to get below the 23%, which is inherently bullish. And sure enough, pushed it over the 50%. And we expect that move to be to the 100 because when you fail to get that reset from the MBI weight spike, you're going to get the counter push taking you all the way back to the upside. So what does that give us from a daily look? Not much of a change of anything. Uh, we were expecting continuation, move towards 100%. You got close and backed off of it from there, and now you're doing the exact same thing. And again, this was that just a little bit better than the Nasdaq. That dip of orange. Almost getting below the red. It didn't quite. So we've stayed in within that what I call continuation zone, where it's trapped between the two. And if it's able to break out to the upside of it, then we will get old carry through. Um, but again, you don't have reset of short-term buyers in any way, shape, or form. So this idea that the market has been overbought, well, it's just a term they use. But at the end of the day, this is the move that came from all the new fund money. So about as much as you're going to get from it. And without a short cover rally built into it, it makes it tough. And so you get a slow move, and as you get towards 100%, then boom, it takes a day or so for it to all collapse down from nothing. You can see the ineffective nature of it relative to the Nasdaq here. Much stronger move, but you can see that MBI weight spike. So shorts are building stronger within the Nasdaq because of this what I call failure to thrive, and that literally is what you start to see from it. We did see some playing around with the treasuries, but more importantly, within the oil sector, it's still just back and forth. Yes, you had huge inventory increases and stuff. Is it something that's going to build, or was it an anomaly? That's the debate, but it's still at these levels. Huge damper on economic growth, on inflation, all of it. The narrative is still that the U.S. is the nightmare position, and this is the political part of the whole uh, convention of it, and the euro being at a ridiculous level given what their economic growth rate is. It's just crazy stuff. And again, we just keep putting up the whole chart, but it's just going to continue to rise back towards its 100%. The timeline on that is very different. There's an elasticity to uh, how much demand there is versus what has to be done structurally, and they could apply a whole lot of money in the short term to create an effect that would be necessary for their March delivery situation, and from there, then things will normalize. Interestingly enough, though, from a Bitcoin standpoint of that and other crypto, you've had this drain of liquidity, and that's what these uh, little crash moves done, and the push into gold. That value that's gone into gold is directly pulled from what we've seen having gone into crypto before, and you can see the relative change on it. And this was, going back to Bitcoin and that, where some of the big whales were selling their positions. Clearly, they took that money and went into gold. Um, pretty straightforward from that view. It's just how it played out, and now you've got what's left, and the remnants of it are that things aren't bad. Uh, Putting up this 50K. This is a alternative program here that I'm working with that better depicts the construct of how prices really managed as far as from an algorithm standpoint. And literally, it's more about what happens within our ABM structure, which are the trailing lines as well as within the Morganacci, and how that compression works. Because what we get is situations like this where you start to get a compression of your overall total value of the Morganacci, and from that you're going to get an expansion. And it's just a critical element as to watch where we get on our readings to determine which way that breakout is going to go. Right now, when you're caught at a 50%, you're not going anywhere. You're half and half between the two. But the longer that exists, the greater that tension is. And the greater the tension, the more explosive the move. So that's what we'll be watching for going forward, and I think that we're starting to build towards that case. So we'll keep an eye on it for you, but for now, we'll just keep following what the readings are, and pretty funny for those who don't have them because it's going to be difficult to continue to follow things, which is why people are getting whipped around so badly at this particular stage, and that adds to more tension, which is exactly why we expect a directional breakout from all of this, because at a certain point, the exhaustion from their inability to find a correct path usually leads to a surrender, and once people give up, that's when things move. So that's the long and the short of it for now. Anything relevant on the team chat? So chat you later.